You want to know what else is a mess right now? Is 135 pounds. And the only one calling it a mess is me. As I sit out and I take a look at that division, I mean, don't forget, you're in a division that Dominic Cruz saved. If it wasn't for Dominic Cruz, the same way that Henry Cejudo gets credit for saving 125 pounds, Dominic Cruz is the one that made 135 pounds interesting. The only reason I bring that up is that wasn't that long ago. It was not that long ago that people weren't talking about the division, and when they were talking about getting rid of that division. And in all fairness, we got a lot of eyes on that division with a lot of moving parts. When I call something a mess, I'm giving it a big compliment. When you have a division where it's very clear who 1 and 2 is, not great. When you have a division where you're starting to make arguments and it's musical chairs and people have to come to the table and start begging other people to get behind them and beat the drum and go to social media and call your congressman type situation, that's a mess, that's chaos, and that is wonderful for a division. But when you look at 135 pounds, look, guys, we got a problem. We got a big problem from Jump Street, which is Aljo took on Sandhagen. We were told before that fight that the winner of that fight would fight the winner of Jan versus Aldo. We were told that, okay? Aljo won the fight. So Aljo should be given the opportunity, right? Right? Bit of a problem, and I'll tell you why. Within that same night, at the same weight class, Cody fought. So you can't tell me that a former world champion who you've put on a card with your number one contenders match within the same weight class, but he goes later in the night, isn't more relevant. That's where the problem comes. I get that 135 pound that night was the designated contenders match. I get it. I get who won. I don't dispute it. I want Aljo to have something very good happen to him. I want to see him fight for the championship. I think he's got a very good chance to win the championship. But within that same evening, Cody fought 2 fights later. Now, these cards are put in level of importance. So if you have 2 guys within the same weight class, one of them's a former world champion, but you're going to tell me somebody that fought earlier in the night, I'm supposed to make believe has some level of more importance within the decision maker's office. I'm not saying within my heart or within your hearts. We're trying to guess and speculate what the decision makers are doing. What the decision makers already decided. They decided 135 pounds, Cody Garbrandt was more important, which is why he was up here on the card known as the co-main event. He then gets a stoppage over a perennial number 1 contender. Oh, by the way, he's the former world champion. Now, I haven't got things confusing yet. I'm not attempting to weigh a horse. I'm not saying it's confusing yet. You want to know who confused it? The new champ. The new champ hasn't said Aljo's name. The new champ won't quit saying Cody's name. Aljo's sitting out thinking he's got a world title fight coming up with Jan, but guess who else isn't booked? Former champ. Who's being called out by the new champ. Can you at least agree with me? We have a bit of a problem here. For me to call this a mess, that qualifies as a mess, doesn't it? Oddly, neither one of these 2 guys are booked. Aljo's not booked because he was told he's going to fight the champ. He didn't even know who the champ was going to be. He didn't know if that was going to be Aldo or Jan. So he finally gets his marching papers a few days ago. It turns out to be Jan, but Jan goes to the press conference and he calls out Cody No-Jaw. That's what Jan called him, by the way. Cody No-Jaw. That's funny. Those are fighting words. And if you know Cody Garbrandt, those are fighting words. And then you have the guy that might be the most popular guy in the history of the division, and Sugar Sean. But Sugar Sean does have a dance partner. He's going to go up with Vera. We understand that. But it does make you wonder, how many fights is he away from a title? Vera's probably not going to do it. Vera's probably not the one. But if you got 2 studs who either one could be the one's already been the one, and the other one's been told that he is the one. When you have 2 studs, only one of them gets the nod and the other one's on ice. Do they draw into the winner of Sean Vera? Do they sit out and wait for the winner of Jan versus whoever his next opponent is? Is there another player at this weight class I'm missing? Yeah, sure there is. There's a lot of players at the weight class. Is Henry going to come back? But you start to see the mess that they're in. Jan is starting to make it very clear who he wants to fight. Cody, been very vocal who he wants to fight and what he wants to fight for, which is the world championship. Aljo was given the opportunity. He hasn't lost this spot. This is Aljo's spot as far as I know. As recently as Saturday, he got his marching orders as to who won, which is all he's been waiting for. Turns out it's Jan. Aljo had better be smart enough to know what's going on, which is Jan is trying to bring in Cody. Aljo, your move.